Hi, and welcome to Japan Today Spotlight, where we take a deep dive into the stories currently shaping Japan. I'm Jeff Richards. You might remember that in our very first Japan Today Spotlight episode, we discussed President Donald Trump's re-election and new Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and the state of Japan-U.S. relations. So, after 3 months of trying, Japan's Prime Minister Ishiba finally got his meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump on February 7. But the question is, was it worth it? This whirlwind 24-hour trip to Washington was a tightly orchestrated attempt to build a personal connection with Trump. The two leaders shared a 2-hour working lunch and then took turns praising each other at a joint press conference. But beneath the handshakes and the pleasantries, what really happened? Let's take a look. Ishiba didn't take any chances heading into this meeting. For 5 days straight, he and his advisors rehearsed how to handle Trump's unpredictability, what to discuss, and how to replicate the strong personal bond that Trump had with the late Shinzo Abe. He sought input from an interesting mix of people. SoftBank's richest man, Masayoshi Son, OpenAI's Sam Altman, and even Abe's widow, Akie Abe. And in an interesting move, he also brought along Sunao Takao, the same interpreter Abe used. Trump apparently liked Takao so much he once called him the little prime minister. The strategy, I guess, was to recreate the rapport Trump and Abe had and get some much-needed assurances and security and trade. But did it pay off? Judging by the press conference alone, Trump seemed comfortable with Ishiba. And that's a positive step for Japan, given Trump's unpredictable nature. Ishiba and Trump spoke of a new golden age in the U.S.-Japan relationship, with stronger cooperation on defense, business, energy, and artificial intelligence. The key takeaways? Japan will boost LNG, or liquid natural gas imports, from the U.S. via a $44 billion Alaskan gas pipeline. Japan will increase defense spending, buying more U.S. military equipment, and Trump reaffirmed his commitment to Japan's security in the Indo-Pacific. Much of this isn't new. Japan was already planning to boost defense spending and investment. Trump's softer tone on tariffs is a relief, but it's not a guarantee. This is more of a confirmation of existing commitments than a groundbreaking shift in policy. But then something else happened at the meeting. The surprise came when Trump 3 times referred to Nippon Steel as Nissan, and then casually announced that instead of acquiring U.S.Steel, the Japanese company might instead just invest in it. Trump also said he plans to meet with the head of Nippon Steel and be involved as a mediator in the deal, which has been a political hot potato since December of 2023. This comment apparently blindsided Nippon Steel executives back in Tokyo. A senior Nippon Steel official said nothing had been discussed about investing in rather than acquiring the U.S.Steel. Furthermore, no trip had been planned for Nippon Steel execs for its representatives to travel to the United States. On February 9th, back in Japan, Ishiba said on a television program that it was his idea that Nippon Steel invest in, rather than buy, U.S.Steel. He described the investment as mutually beneficial and said Japan's technology would be provided to U.S. steel mills in the States. But Trump may be thinking more in terms of cash rather than the technology. So it would appear that Trump's announcement has left everyone slightly confused. What to make of this? If it's true, it could be a compromise to ease U.S. political concerns. If it's false, on the other hand, it's another example of Trump making off-the-cuff statements and leaders not holding him to task. Either way, Japan's corporate world is now scrambling to react. Okay, and then there's the tariffs. Trump, for his part, wants to slash the $68 billion in the trade deficit with Japan, but his language was not nearly as harsh as it was when he talked about imposing tariffs on Canada, Mexico, China, and the EU. He isn't taking the possibility of levying tariffs against Japan off the table, but believes the issue can be resolved without taking punitive action. In contrast to what he had to say about Canada, Trump was very easygoing toward Japan, saying it will be very easy for Japan. We have a fantastic relationship. I don't think we'll have any problem. Which is what Ishiba wanted to hear, especially since Japanese companies have held the top spot for cumulative foreign direct investment in the U.S. over the last 5 years. The news conference, which went for about 40 minutes, was full of mutual praise. Trump was certainly playing nice with Japan, calling it one of the greatest civilizations in the history of the world. Trump also said he thought Ishiba had the qualities of a great prime minister like his pal Shinzo Abe, or Abe, as Trump always called him. Then it was Ishiba's turn when a Japanese reporter asked him what he thought about Trump. Ishiba poured it on, saying he was excited to meet a television celebrity like Trump. On television, he is frightening, but he was actually very sincere, adding that he wasn't using their White House meeting to suck up to the U.S. president, which is exactly how the interpreter rendered his remarks in English. The Prime Minister also added he was inspired by the undaunted presence of a bloodied Trump pumping his fist after an assassination attempt at a campaign rally last July. Turning to Trump, he gushed that many in Japan were also excited about his return to the White House. It is not only among politicians, but also among the general public as well as business leaders, Ishiba said. There are many that were anxiously awaiting your comeback. It really was more of a love fest than a news conference, according to some U.S. media. Now, is all of what Ishiba said actually true? Polls in Japan suggest caution, not enthusiasm, about Trump's comeback. This seems more like Ishiba flattering Trump than reflecting actual public sentiment. So, given that, what did Ishiba actually secure? No immediate tariff threats, reassurances on U.S. defense support for Japan, a stronger personal connection with Trump, a crucial factor given Trump's unpredictable foreign policy. But here's the challenge. Trump suggested Japan increase defense spending to 3% of GDP, a huge jump from the current 2% target. That is very difficult politically in Japan for Ishiba's minority government. As for the LNG project, that seems like another one of Trump's off-the-cuff remarks. He claimed it would erase the current trade deficit within a year or two, but perhaps someone forgot to tell him that the 1,300-kilometer-long pipeline, if it becomes a reality, won't go online until 2031. Looking at the meeting overall, there's always a concern in Japanese political circles that prime ministers promise way too much when they meet U.S. presidents. So, while Ishiba might have walked away with some assurances from Trump, he now faces tough questions at home about how much he's actually committed Japan to doing. In other areas, we can expect to see more cooperation in areas like investment, energy, artificial intelligence, cyberspace, and outer space. While it sounded like Ishiba might have been giving away the farm, really, nothing definite actually resulted from the meeting. To wrap up, Ishiba invited Trump for an official visit to Japan in the near future, which the president accepted. That would most likely take place in November of this year if Trump decides to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC. But there is a twist. Will Ishiba still be in power by then? Japan's ruling Democratic Party is facing a tough summer election, and if they lose big in the upper house, Ishiba's time as prime minister could be cut very short. So, after all of this effort, does this meeting actually solidify Ishiba's position? Or is it just a short-term political boost? That's something we'll be watching closely. Mr. Ishiba went to Washington to show Japan's commitment to the U.S. alliance and to build personal relationships with Trump and his team. But at the end of the day, how much did he really achieve? Besides prostrating himself at the feet of Donald Trump, and at what cost? Did he overpromise on defense spending? Is Japan now locked into an expensive LNG deal? What happens if Trump changes his stance on tariffs? Most importantly, was this meeting a real diplomatic success, or was this just a performance? From the Japan Today newsroom in Tokyo, I'm Jeff Richards. Join us next time.